Hello, this is Professor Azar again, and this is the final of the videos on making a master budget. Let's go to the sheet. And in the previous sheet, I had made rather two ordinary budgets, long budgets, the purchases budget, which is the raw materials, direct materials that you're going to have to purchase. And it turned out that you're going to have to purchase a total of $5.8 million worth of direct materials. And then finally, in the next budget, this is the manufacturing overhead cost budget. Okay, and then we calculated direct materials budgets, which included metal, plastic, and handles. Total materials cost for $5.7 million. Then we calculated the direct labor at $3.6 million, more or less. And finally, we calculated the variable manufacturing overhead and the fixed manufacturing overhead at $384 and $214. And then we had total manufacturing costs of $9,918,000. Now, all these budgets are brought together in the cash budget because you spend cash on buying, on paying labor, on buying materials, on paying your selling and administrative expenses. So you spend cash on everything. So our next budget is kind of short, but you're going to see that what it does is it kind of unifies all these other budgets. Okay, so let's go ahead and start the cash budget. Okay, this is just basically your cash balance in the bank. Okay. Now your beginning cash balance, now this is just from the other information. So we come over here, and from the other information, we see that the beginning cash balance is $1,800,000. Okay, so here's what we're going to do is we're going to put the number 1,800,000 here. That's just text right there, just so that we can tie a number into it. We'll put the number 1,800,000 there. And we know that from on the cash budget that your cash will be $1,800,000 is your beginning cash balance. That's just the number you got. I just like to put numbers there rather than just having text. Okay, how about the collections? Now here's the piece of information that you have to look for in the collections. During the current quarter, it says sales are credit. So sales are on credit. Half are collected in this quarter and half in the remaining quarter. Okay, so if you look at the way the cash collection for this particular budget is set up, the current quarter's sales are from the sales budget, $11 million, and I'm going to take those times 0.5 or 50% because one half will be collected this period and one half will be collected next period. So your current cash collections for sales for the current quarter are $5,500,000. Now for the previous quarter, you need the previous quarter's sales, and they're going to take that times 50%. Okay, so let's see what we got here. We go to the other information. You have to go all the way down here to the other information. The problem, it says that the previous sales quarters were $8,400,000. So we're going to collect half of those. And I put that number in there just so I'd have a number to refer to. Okay, so we're going to have, this is going to be equal to $8,400,000 times 0.5, 50%. So our total cash collections from operations for this period, or total cash from, I shouldn't say some operations, or maybe it is from operations, but basically our total cash available is going to be our previous beginning cash balance of $1.8 million plus the cash collections for the current quarter and the cash collections from the previous quarter. Okay, so our total, in a sense, I should put cash available there, is $1.8 million plus $5.5 million plus 4.2. So we have cash available to disperse of $11,500,000. Okay, now here's our disbursements, and it kind of makes sense. Our disbursements, one is going to come from the materials that we buy. The other one is going to come from the labor that we pay. Then we've got manufacturing overhead, and then that we pay, and then we're going to have selling and administrative expenses. Okay, so our first disbursement, I'll put a negative front, is from our purchases budget, and this is the total of the purchases budget, I believe, for all the materials. There it is right there. So there's your purchases budget. So we bought $5.8 million of material. Now the labor is going to be, we're going to take both labor and overhead out of our manufacturing cost budget. So just to look ahead here, you know that the labor, our total labor is 3.576. Our total manufacturing overhead is going to be, that we're going to pay out is going to be the 384, which is our variable manufacturing overhead, plus our fixed manufacturing overhead of 214. However, according to the other information that we have here, of the 214, 156 are for non-cash expenditures. Let's go ahead and get these in. Just looking forward here. So we've got our labor, that's an easy one, equal to a negative 3576. Our manufacturing overhead is going to be equal to the sum of two numbers minus one number, is equal to our variable manufacturing overhead. So our variable manufacturing overhead is 384 plus our fixed manufacturing overhead, which is 214 minus, make sure to get this in here. Okay, so it's plus, let's start this one again. It's equal to the variable manufacturing overhead of 384 plus the fixed manufacturing overhead of 214 minus, and I'm just going to put 156,000 in there. And the place I'm getting 156 from is, and that should give me 442. The place that I'm getting the 156 from is that of the fixed manufacturing overhead, 156 is for cash expenditures, so that cannot be considered a cash outlay. So that's why I'm pulling the 156 out. So I'm taking basically, for my manufacturing overhead, I am taking so I've got 442 total, and it is, if we look at the equation, that 442, we can go down here, and it's the 384 plus the 214, and I just threw in minus 156, that's actually minus 156 there, and that minus 156 goes all the way to the left-hand side, where it says that 156 is not a non-cash expenditure. So this is 442. Okay, and we'll put a negative in front of that right there. Minus 442. And then finally, our final cash expenditures is going to be equal to our selling and administrative expenses. And we go back here to the text, and it says selling and administrative expenses were 340 cash, less 90 for depreciation. So that's going to give you 250. 340 minus that gives you 250. And I actually made a separate number for that. So our selling and administrative expenses are minus 250 equals 2, and it's equal to the 340 minus the 90, or this 250 right here. That should be a negative 250 right there. Okay, so we started with the beginning cash balance of 1.8 million. We collected, based on the current quarter's collections and the previous quarter collections, we collected 11,500,000. Our total cash disbursements here, our total cash disbursements are going to be equal to the sum of all these negative numbers here, which are for cash disbursements. So that gives me 10,062,000 in terms of disbursements. So my ending cash balance should be the total available cash plus a negative of 10,062,000. So my ending cash should be $1,438,000. That seems to match the answer. Okay, and then finally, we're going to come to the income statement. And this is, in essence, an accrual basis income statement, but it's based on, it's sort of an internally formatted income statement. It's a contribution approach income statement. Notice that the only costs we're taking out of cost of goods sold, we're not taking any fixed cost out of cost of goods sold. They're all variable costs out of cost of goods sold. Okay, so let's just go ahead and finish this right here. Our sales here comes from the sales budget, which we made in the first video. So our sales budget is $11 million in sales. Our cost of goods sold is going to be, and I put the variable cost of goods sold. This is the variable cost, direct materials, direct labor, and variable manufacturing overhead that go into both drills and saws, and I'll show you where I get them. There's the calculations right there, 60,000 times 85 and 40,000 times $99.50. Okay, for drills, we start with the 60,000 units in the drills. We're going to sell 60,000 drills. Remember, this is cost of goods sold. We're only costing out units that we sell, so it's units times the cost. So our units are 60,000, but we're going to multiply those times, that's 60,000 times the variable cost per drill. And the variable cost per drill is going to be this $85 right here. So we've got 60,000 times $85 right there. Now the equation, I think you can see part of it. No, you can't even see part of it. But that comes to 60,000 times 85. Okay, and then the saws, we made 40,000, and then the variable cost that go into each are going to be from the really left-hand standard cost card we have over there. So we've got 40,000, our saws, we're going to sell, budgeted sales are 40,000 saws times a variable cost per unit in these saws of $99.50. So that gives me $3,980. So our total, I'm gonna put this in as a negative, because it is a negative. So I'll put it in as our total variable cost of goods sold is equal to negative 5,100,000 plus 3,980. So our variable cost of goods sold are 9,080,000. The gross profit is just going to be the sales plus the minus the variable cost of goods sold of 9,080. So our gross profit is 1,920,000. And then we just got two types of fixed costs to take out. We're going to take out 214 in fixed manufacturing overhead, and that was handled, no pun intended here. That is going to be, there's your fixed manufacturing overhead right there in the manufacturing cost budget, and the selling administrative expenses are in the additional information. The selling administrative expenses are really $340,000, but since this is an accrual basis income statement, we're not going to take out the non-cash expense, the non-cash depreciation. Okay, so to finish this up here, I know I'm going all over the place. However, I'll send you the sheet so you can see the formulas. Okay, so your fixed manufacturing overhead is $214,000. That's that right there. And your selling and administrative expenses are, I actually put a number in there, are $340,000. Okay, and I'll put those in. I'll put those in as a negative. So I'll put it, it's going to be negative 214 plus 340. Better put that up here. It's going to be negative 214 plus 340. Okay, so our final net income is 1920 plus a negative 554. So our final net income is 1366. That seems to match the answer, and that's it right there. So I'll put this up, and that's the final video. These videos have been This is a big, long problem, but I think it gives you the whole picture in a sense. You got to actually dig deeper into this and get more detailed into this thing. But that's the idea of a master budget. Keep in mind, this is all data here. Keep in mind that you always start with a sales budget, because with sales, unless you know what you're going to sell, you don't know how much you need to produce. So you start with what you're going to sell, and then the final units you're going to produce. From the final units you're going to produce, you can then calculate basically by taking your final units produced, which are 65 and 42, and multiplying times all the units of labor and materials that you're going to put into them. You can calculate your various costs here, especially not labor, but your total direct materials that you're going to put in. And then over here, using somewhat similar logic, once you know the number of units you're going to produce, then you know how much goes into each one and the cost of each unit of materials, labor, whatever, and then you get your final cost, and everything comes together in your cash budget and, in a sense, in your budgeted income statement. Keep in mind, everything is budgeted here. Anyway, I'm signing off, and I'll put this right up. Thank you very much.